Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Yes, welcome to another episode of Ask Rob and Rob, the show where you have questions and we hopefully have answers. We've got a brilliant couple of questions in today from Wilson and Val. We'll be hearing those in just a sec, but if you'd like to join them and ask a question of your own, here is how to do it.
Yeah, you've got two ways of getting involved. You can call up and leave a message on the answer phone, and to do that you need to call 013 808 0035. That's 013 808 0035. Or you can just go along to the website propertyhub.net/ask and leave your message there. So let's listen to Wilson, who's followed that process to a T.
Hello, Rob and Rob. Wilson Norwich here. Firstly, thanks for everything you do on the podcast. Been listening for, about 6 months now. Been through all the back catalogue and, thanks very much for the free advice. I've got a question which I imagine will probably be of interest mostly to Rob B, regarding Liverpool flats. So, been looking in sort of Liverpool for a bit now, and I see sort of flats in several places are currently going for perhaps 40-50% less than they were in 2007 in the peak of the market. So, I mean, a couple of examples, Lowbridge Court and also Golders Green sort of spring to mind. Yeah, I mean, there's Golders Green one on at 57 at the moment, sold for 105 in 2007. So, I mean, with that in mind and with the property cycle, next phase of the property cycle, do you see those increasing, somewhere back towards sort of what they were in 2007, or is there a reason that sort of Liverpool flats are always going to be, kind of devalued compared with what they were, if you like? Yeah, be very interested in any thoughts you might have, and look forward to possibly hearing my question read out on the podcast.
Wilson, thank you. Great question, and nice and easy for me, being that it's about Liverpool. Now, you've spotted an opportunity. Liverpool as a city is arguably underpriced right now, and especially where we are in the cycle, is a city that Rob and I feel has real opportunity and upside potential, and that's why it made our list of places to invest this year. Now, one of the key things we talk about again and again on the podcast is that if we name a city, you don't have to go to the cheapest areas to make it work. Liverpool city centre is a prime example of this. The premium areas of Liverpool, the city centre, some of the areas south of the city, their prices right now are still really good. Like, you're picking up one-bed apartments for under 150 grand that are top spec, even new or nearly new, great condition, and two beds, not too much more. So as a property investor, if you've got the funds to start, most people can access those properties. Where we get concerned is that people listen to us, say Liverpool, Leeds, Manchester, wherever, and then get excited and then start looking for the cheapest deals. Now, that may not have happened with yourself, Wilson, but you definitely are looking at some of the cheaper areas, which come with different risks. Generally, in cheaper areas, and I'm talking in general terms here, you have a few additional challenges. One, your tenant profile may not be as desirable, and linked to that, the amount of tenants in that area may not be as high as well. Now, you can get very good tenants and you can get very good rental demand in lower priced areas as well, but generally the former seems to be the case. So looking at the two blocks you picked out specifically, they look kind of standard, basic apartments in low priced areas. I know both of these areas. They're okay. I would suggest a visit. If you're not investing in a prime area, you need to know what you're getting into. So I would definitely suggest a visit if you haven't done already. And I would go and visit the apartments as well. And you know what? If you're happy with that and that all works, then great. But where I would be looking here, because the prices are so low and they do look really low, so there is value here, you're going to have to check the legals. Make sure there's nothing wrong with the lease, because there's some historical leases that have caused issues around mortgageability. You want to make sure that you can get a mortgage on these properties, so check with the estate agent. If they say it's a cash-only deal, that should be a red flag. There could be issues there. And I'd also want to be looking at the service charges and the standard of the block and see how it's being maintained. Now, if you check all that and all is well, but please do those checks, then you might be on your way to a bargain. And if you look at where we are in the cycle, and the price point these apartments are at right now, you are definitely in for some upside. However, I would say you're 2, maybe 3 years away before seeing any, because with all these places that we talk about, the prime areas go first. So you don't have to play it so early if you don't want to. You can go in to the city centre of Liverpool or the city centres or prime areas of the other cities we've mentioned. But if funds are limited and you can only get into property at this price point, and you've done all those checks, you've been and viewed the property, then maybe you do want to go ahead, because I do think in a few years' time you will see uplift and you will see some really good capital growth. So good luck, Wilson. Do all your checks, but the fact you've even asked a question on Ask Rob and Rob gives me confidence you will.
Well, very lucky to have such good local knowledge there, but there are some really great general lessons in there that you can apply to any city, not just Liverpool. So I'm sure everyone listening will have benefited from that, and they should from the next question as well, which comes courtesy of Val.
Hi Rob and Rob, this is Val from London, and I have a question about mortgage prisoners. So I understand that mortgage prisoners are people stuck on poor deals who can't refinance to better deals because they're not seen as attractive prospects. I'm just wondering if you have any advice for any new investors on how to avoid becoming a mortgage prisoner. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Val. Really good question. And a lot of newer investors are very nervous around mortgages. And it's sensible to be a little bit nervous about mortgages because they are a big responsibility, but they're also really powerful. So if you didn't hear our episode about leverage in episode 308 a couple of weeks ago, definitely go back and listen to that, because that's where we get into the real fundamentals of leverage, what you need to be aware of, and how you can take full advantage of it. Now, the good news for investors is that you're more likely to become a mortgage prisoner if you are an owner-occupier, because the amount that you can borrow is more closely tied to your personal income. So if you manage to borrow a certain amount of money based on a certain income, then your income falls for whatever reason. You might then be in a position where you're unable to borrow that amount of money in future. For investors, the amount you can borrow is more closely tied to the rental income and the capital value of the property. So yes, of course, rental income could potentially fall, capital values could fall, but you're a bit less fragile because it's not tied so much to your situation. That doesn't mean, of course, that you should be blasé about the risks of mortgages, and there are a few simple things that you can do to stay safe. So the first thing is not to over borrow. Stick to around 75% loan to value. You could go a bit higher, but as you start going to higher loan to values, if you can find them, if you can find deals at 80%, 85%, there might even be a couple out there, you're going to find that your options are limited. So if you take out, say, an 85% mortgage, then a couple of years later you want to remortgage, the value of the property is the same, so the loan to value is still 85%, but that one lender who offers that product doesn't like you for some reason, or that product's been withdrawn, then there's not a lot you can do. You're a bit stuck. Whereas if you stick to 75%, or even lower if you're particularly nervous, then you'll have far more choice. Tied into that, you might want to avoid very niche investments. So there are particular types of investment, say very, very cheap properties or non-standard construction properties, where there will only be one or two lenders who will lend on it at all. Again, for the same reason, if those lenders pull out of the market by the time you come to remortgage, you're a little bit stuck. Then there are a couple of things that you can do personally away from the property. So one obvious thing is to keep your credit clean and keep your income above most lenders' minimum. There are lenders who don't have minimum income requirements, and there are lenders who will accept people with less than ideal credit. But again, not so many. And there will be points in the cycle where lenders are more conservative and more nervous, where those options might disappear completely. So if you make sure that you maintain your position as the type of person who most lenders will want to lend to, and you've got a property that the majority of lenders will be happy to lend on, then you shouldn't be overly concerned. But do make sure that you keep up to date. Check in with your broker regularly. Take an active interest. Don't just switch off for a few years, because things can change a lot. Things have changed loads in the last couple of years with mortgages, mostly for the good as it happens. But make sure that you pay attention so you can get ahead of any challenges that might come up for you in the future. If you do those few things, then you'll be able to reap the full power of mortgages.
So thank you, Wilson. Thank you, Val. Two awesome questions, and hopefully everyone's knowledge has been topped up by a little bit more. But if you're not quite satisfied and you want to really top up your knowledge, head along to the Property Hub and check out Property Hub University. Just go to the website propertyhub.net and you can check it out, where there's bundles of free courses that you can really supercharge your learning and become a property expert. And of course, you can listen to the Property Podcast, which will be back on Thursday. So until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.